Welcome to Scoop Road Order. It is a wild Monday morning. Kyle McCord has entered the transfer portal. If you guys are members of BuckeyeScoop.com, we broke that at 9:44 p.m. last night, Sunday night. We had really good sources. We had a really strong word it was going to go down today, and here it is. The rest of the world is catching up to us, but it went down. I am not surprised at all after what I've heard the last week in the Woody Hayes. There was a lot of things that wanted to be assured, and Ryan Day was not ready to assure it. Ryan Day and staff are extremely active in the transfer portal looking for an upgrade at quarterback, and that was not the answer that Kyle McCord wanted to hear. So that is where we are at now. As always, we appreciate you guys. Thank you guys for kicking it with us. If you enjoy this content and you want the latest in breaking news in Ohio State, you got to go to BuckeyeScoop.com. We had this on our board last night. Again, it is shocking. It is stunning. But it really isn't if you know what's going on inside the Woody Hayes. There's a lot of consternation, a lot of craziness right now. He's not going to be the last transfer to announce today, but this was obviously the biggest one, the returning quarterback who still has 2 more years left of eligibility. He'll be a redshirt junior wherever he lands next year. But, as we get into this, it's one of those shockers that, again, it's hard. You have to understand, like from our perspective, we deal with a lot of information. We have to kind of disseminate it. We have to really source it out. We have to really figure out what's real. And, it's tough when you have something like that. I mean, I've had that for 2 days, and you sit on it and you're just like, could this really happen? Could a guy who just went 11-1 in the Big Ten, really take off, 6 points away from being the number one seed in the playoffs? Is it that bad? The word I was told is that it was. Kyle was miserable here. He just whatever. He had the most. I mean, I was told from a great source he had the most miserable year of his life, and he was 11-1 starting quarterback at Ohio State. But it's a tough place to play. Ryan is a tough coach to play for, and again, Ryan does what he does. I mean, he's been magical making quarterbacks, but it is not fun to play for Ryan when you're the starting quarterback because he's very tough on those guys. And I'm good with that. Urban Meyer was very tough on players. Bill Parcells was. So it was one of those deals where we've had this information. We know that they went after Cam Ward. They offered a pretty sizable offer. Cam Ward turned it down. And the backstory behind that is exceptionally intriguing and interesting, but I'm not going to get into that, but it was very interesting as to why he turned it down. But the word was that he got offered $2 million in NIL from Ohio State, and you have to understand, like a lot of these guys, they talk, they hear the offers. There's question marks. If you're Kyle McCord and we're offering a ton of NIL money to another quarterback, what does that mean for his future? And why is he not getting the NIL money? Because that's part of the deal. Is like a lot of people, they assume NIL means, like, today, like free agency essentially opens with the transfer portal. There will be probably 500-600 kids that enter the portal. They all want, if they're good players, they want money to come to your school. But there's also the thing when there's kids like Kyle that had good freshman or good, third years as a third-year sophomore, where they want him to be, taken care of as well. It's kind of like, you offered him $2 million. What are you going to offer me to stay? And it wasn't anywhere near. And I think another thing is that Ryan really wanted, Kyle McCord and his father really wanted assurances from Ryan that they were going to be the starter next year. And I don't think Ryan was ready to do that. He wanted to have a competition. The same thing with Devin Brown. I think Devin Brown likely is the starter for the bowl game at this point, unless he portals today as well. There's a thought that could happen, but with Kyle going first, Devin's got a real opportunity here to at least play the bowl game, get some film, and evaluate his situation as Ohio State goes to the portal. I mean, Ohio State has been exceptionally active in the portal the last 2 years at quarterback. Last year, they went after Drake May, the quarterback from Carolina, who would probably be the number 2 pick in the draft. People, they laughed at that. They rolled their eyes at that. Drake May is a Carolina guy. His parents went there, but I know for a fact that Ryan Day went after him. And it was one of those things where when I saw that, I immediately thought that he wasn't sold on Kyle McCord. Not to the degree that you would think he would be, given the fact that Kyle, coming into this year had 3 full years of eligibility left. So it wasn't like he was a senior and he had to put feelers out. He was literally a third-year starter. He won 11-1, third team All Big Ten. Didn't play great. A lot of stretches was I thought he was terrible in the Michigan game. He missed a lot of wide open throws. He looked terrified. You really try to kind of toe the line and not get too negative on kids when you cover Ohio State because it doesn't bode well. But yeah, I just against Notre Dame and against Michigan, he just looked like he was scared to death. Notre Dame, we got exceptionally lucky when they had 10 guys on the field and we ran right where the defensive end was missing, and then against Michigan, I mean, he missed open throws that you got to hit those. You got to make your layups when you're playing a team like Michigan, and you got to move the chains. And it just something seemed really off. He played with a very joyless style. Like he looked like he was miserable on the field all season, and it was palpable. You could see it. Like he didn't look like he was having fun. And for whatever reason, I don't think he was. So, I got a super chat. If you guys have any questions, go ahead and send the super chats in. Again, this is kind of an emergency early episode, but we broke this at 9:44 last night on BuckeyesScoop.com that Kyle McCord is going to transfer, and again, it's a big shot because that's one where it doesn't sound like it could happen, but here we are. Lord Vader Kush, appreciate you, brother. Big win for Perry. Great games last weekend. Yeah, that's actually Bob Geswich's Perry, which is a smaller school up in Northeast Ohio. Congrats to Bob Geswich. He coached at Dublin Jerome down here. That's not the Perry I went to, but it was awesome to see him win a state championship. He's a great guy. Appreciate your brother for the deuce. But yeah, I think that it's going to be interesting to see. I think that now that Kyle McCord is gone and Devin Brown likely will be the starter, it'll be interesting to see how much more appealing that Ohio State job is for the portal. I mean, obviously, you see Brandon Ennis and Carnell Tate politicking for Dante Moore from UCLA. That's one where it seems like it makes sense, but I don't know if Dante is if we're gonna go after him. But again, everything's different now that Kyle's gone. I mean, you don't have the incumbent quarterback returning. Devin Brown. Is he locked in now? Is he going to be the guy next year, or is he going to take off after the bowl game? I imagine he'll stay for the bowl game because he's basically guaranteed to be the starter, and he doesn't really have that much film. So, this could be one where Devin could kind of bide his time, start the bowl game, see how he does, and then potentially portal after, or he could go through spring ball and see who they bring in. I'd watch. The kid from Duke is very likely going to Notre Dame, but I know that they want to try to be with him. Washington State's guy, again, he turned us down. So again, the activity is very interesting. But all right, let's start hitting some of these super chats. If I was a betting man, I mean, it's all different now. I mean, I think Malik Murphy is a guy that at Texas has got a different kind of scenario now that Quinn Ewers is going to come back for his senior year. I think they really want to meet with Grant Mertz, the kid from Duke, but he's pretty much locked into Notre Dame. Cam Ward is a guy that turned us down already. They offered him big money, so those are some names to watch. Again, like I think Dante Moore would be intriguing because you get him for at least 2 more years. He's going to be a true sophomore next year. Played a little bit at UCLA. Ennis and Tate love him. That's who they played with in the All-American Bowl, so they've got that kind of chemistry, camaraderie there. And they only played together for a week, but they did well. But I don't know how good of a pure thrower he is for what Ryan does. And plus, Ryan's he's a throw first guy. He doesn't want to run the quarterback. Dante's a skill guy that can run. But it'll be interesting to see what Chip Kelly says to Ryan about him, because Ryan and Chip Kelly are extremely close. Obviously, that's his mentor. But yeah, it's going to be interesting. Jermaine Matthews, have I heard anything about him leaving? I have not. I think it's one of those things where a lot of these kids that leave or don't leave, if they don't leave, they still want to remind these guys, hey, I need paid. I need taken care of. Like a lot of these kids that are on the roster that are young freshmen, 5-star, superstar guys, like they get NIL deals. So, some of these guys are getting offered 100, 200, 300 grand to transfer out. And then on the flip, you got to get, some money to the guys to keep them. So it's not like, oh, if you keep the kid on the roster, he doesn't have to get paid at all. These kids, like, I'm the number one corner, and frankly, like for him, it wouldn't make sense to leave because Denzel Burke's likely to declare, and he's going to be the starting corner next year, opposite of Davison Igbinosun. So, to me, it was not. It was not. It doesn't make sense for him to go. It'd be one thing if he's buried in the depth chart, like we saw Kai Stokes go pro, and we saw a lot of guys declare last night, and we're going to see a lot more declare today. Jair Brown, and we lost a lot of depth in the back end in the secondary last night. So, some of these guys like Bryce West are going to have to get ready to go. I mean, Aaron Scott, those guys are going to be counted on early because we're losing the guys that are kind of those second year-ish guys that got passed by freshmen. Like Jermaine Matthews played as a true freshman, was exceptional, and I think he's going to be a superstar here for the next 2 years when he's here before he declares. A. Willis, thanks for the 5. What are the odds we see Lincoln versus Mizzou? I think that they're high. I mean, I think that this is going to be a full-on evaluation, a full-on bowl prep. I think that I'm sure Ryan had to have had an inkling that this was coming because I did. I mean, I talked to people in the Woody Hayes and they said, hey, this is going to go down. And I was, again, that's one of those ones where you get it and you're like, how confident am I? And then as I dug deeper and deeper, like I said, we broke it on Buckeye Scoop last night at 9:44, and it was crazy. Again, like we I mean, I don't know how many times in history you've seen a guy go 11-1 as a sophomore, and again, like we were 6 points away from being the number 1 seed in the playoffs. Now, I know that that's hyperbole and that's whatever, but we're 6 points away, and I'm telling you, like it was one of those things where I was like, is this guy really going to leave Ohio State, where we've produced Dwayne Haskins, Justin Fields, C.J. Stroud, and then like it's kind of like whoever's in that QB spot is in like the jump seat to go to the league and be developed. And you see how C.J. Stroud's playing, and you see how Justin Fields. I mean, they both started as rookies and played really well, and Ryan knows how to develop it, and it's just amazing. Arch Manning, no. Arch is there's just no chance. I mean, Arch is in the perfect spot now behind Quinn. I think Arch is going to be a superstar at Texas, but he'll sit for another year behind Quinn, and then he'll take over. And that's why I think Malik Murphy is a lot more likely, because I think that they know what Arch is, and I think that Sark's probably going to try to find him a spot. Sergio, appreciate you. Thanks for the 5. Let's just admit he was a nice kid, but he didn't have it. Give me JT Barrett energy. Give me some balls. I agree with you. I mean, I watched that kid and he just looked flaccid out there. And again, I'm not bagging on him because he's transferring. I'd watch him and I'm like, I just don't know where the leadership is from this kid. Like he did not look like he wanted to be there. He played with no energy. He didn't really understand the Michigan game. I mean, there was a lot going on there when I'm just like, this is the guy who's going to lead our program the next 2 years. Like, again, I mean, and not everybody has to be some rah-rah dude, some crazy dude. But I just think that, when you're the quarterback at Ohio State, man, you got to bring a lot of energy and a lot of juice because you're the guy everybody looks to. Like, so, I mean, like the guys, like I was fortunate, played for Troy Smith. Troy Smith was a dog, incredible leader. You've seen JT Barrett. You've seen like the guys, even Justin Fields, like these guys that are big time guys. Even CJ. I mean, CJ was voted a captain as a rookie in the NFL, so obviously he's got some leadership qualifications. I mean, he might not have been the most, like the loudest like JT Barrett was, but he obviously could lead. If you get voted a captain as a rookie in the NFL, especially as a 3rd-year guy, like 21-year-old, like that's incredible. But yeah, it's going to be a big day. I mean, if you guys are not members of BuckeyeScoop.com, I'm telling you, if there's ever time to join, it's right now, because we broke the story at 9:44 last night. I sent out a mailer to our email subscribers, and I mean, we had a ton of new people join our site last night because of that news, because it was such a shocker. But if you're really inside the program and you really understand what's going on, it wasn't shocking at all. Again, I think the thing you have to realize, like on Buckeye Scoop, like when Nevada Buck and I do stuff, like we don't listen to what people say in press conferences or whatever. We listen and hear what they do. And by that, I mean, when I saw how aggressive Ryan Day was in the transfer portal, because a lot of guys entered the portal last week, but it was kind of it was like tampering, but I mean, when I heard like the back channels of, how we were reaching out to people, I mean, I knew that something was up. And like last year, again, when we went after Drake May, I knew something was up. It was just like Ryan Ryan wouldn't be making those kinds of moves if it wasn't for um, there being a major question mark about Kyle McCord. I mean, literally, I mean, it's just. I mean, he wasn't going in the portal when he had C.J. Stroud. I mean, when he had a guy who was a top five-ish pick, and Kyle, frankly, wasn't up to that standard. And again, I think that with Kyle's future, I mean, I have no idea where he's going to land. Wish him well. He's a Buckeye. He gave us a good 11-1 season. It was fine, but there were a lot of dynamics that I didn't care for, and it's really interesting. Like I think that like I said, if you're the starting quarterback at Ohio State and Ryan Day is coaching and developing you, it's a super highway to the NFL, and to leave that, you have to be miserable. And I'm telling you, it was just a really weird deal. But it broke today. We broke it last night. I think that there's going to be a lot more guys jumping in the portal from Ohio State. And again, I think that's part of the new normal. I don't think that's an Ohio State issue. I think that's just a college football issue because a lot of these kids that are, they're in year 2, year 3, and they haven't played yet, or they've gotten jumped by a freshman. Like Jair Brown got jumped by Jermaine Matthews Jr. So those are the guys to watch when guys are second year guys, third year guys, and they get jumped by a freshman, by a young guy. Then all of a sudden, they kind of can't see a path to the field because they've been kind of usurped by a guy who's younger than them. Because it's one thing if you got an older guy in front of you and he's going to graduate, move on, and then you kind of wait your turn. But when someone younger takes the spot or is ahead of you or is someone that the coaching staff likes more, then that's when a lot of these guys they get a change of scenery. And again, I've heard some of these backups are getting offered anywhere from 100,000 to 300,000 to transfer, which is crazy. Some guys have never played at Ohio State or barely played, or they're special teamers. Because teams they need talent and they've got money and they're willing to pay to flip an Ohio State corner or an Ohio State lineman or an Ohio State whatever. I'm sure Kyle McCord will be looking for a bag in the portal because that's kind of what it is. But it's just such a wild day. Again, I like we had this last night and it was surprising. But in the comments, how do you guys feel? Like, is anybody upset Kyle McCord is gone? Is everybody celebrating? Is everybody kind of nervous because they don't know who who's going to be our quarterback next year? I mean, so it went from, like I was about a week ago, I was shocked if Kyle McCord wasn't the starter, and then as the week went on, and Kyle McCord met with Ryan Day, and Devin Brown met with Ryan Day, and the parents met with Ryan Day, like. It got worse and worse and worse as it was going. But I don't know. Like I said, this is newfound territory, folks. I mean, when you have a guy who's a starter with 2 years back, and all of a sudden he just dips out. It's shocking. Basil, Scoop Ultra member, best news of the day. Yeah, I'm getting that a lot. Like a lot of people aren't very sad about all this. Dylan Gabriel will be interesting from Oklahoma if he hit the portal. I'm sure that's the guy that we'd call. Again, it's one of those deals where, I mean, I think everything's on the table now that Kyle's gone. I mean, you got to go figure out who else can get. It's a terrible name, but anyone else celebrating? Oh my gosh. Like I said, you drink it. You got another Scoop Ultra guy on here. But yeah, this is a shocker. Yeah, I think it's a good thing too. I think a lot of people are excited to see some new blood. They want to see some energy on the offense. It's a shame it didn't happen last year, and we couldn't get someone in here that could take better advantage of Marvin and Emeka and Trey. And the thing I said is like, how can you have Marvin, Emeka, and Trey Henderson and not be first team All Big Ten? I mean, you've got the two best receivers and the best running back in the country, and our line was good. Like our line was more than good enough to be competent. And we still didn't put up the numbers. Tate Martell's out there floating around. Yeah, I'm sure he is. But no, I want to jump on here. And this is gonna be a wild day, folks. Man, the first day of the portal is gonna be. This is gonna be a wild one. But I'm just telling you, like, get on BuckeyesScoop.com because we're breaking a lot of news. I think there's gonna be a lot more movement today. I think it's gonna be interesting to see who we visit with, who has official visits. Graham Mertz is a guy that would be interesting. I think he's already in the bag for Notre Dame, but things change because I feel like a guy like Graham Mertz wouldn't consider Ohio State but he might now. Like he probably didn't, a week ago when he entered the portal and was locked into Notre Dame. But if you look at the scheme and the system, it'd be good. Devon or Davin Johnson. I think it's Devon. I'll say Devon. Thanks for the 5. Love the show, bro. OH, I'll give you the IO. Do you think Aaron Nolan will get playing time next year? That is a very interesting question. I do not think Aaron will be ready to go next year. It could be. That would be, a pretty amazing rise. I think it's tough for any high school player to play as a true freshman in college football, major college football, especially at Ohio State, where so much is demanded of the quarterback. But I it kind of depends on what everything looks like. I mean, if we bring in Dante Moore, does that make Lincoln Keenholz and does it make Lincoln leave? Does it make Devin Brown leave? I think that there's a lot of swirl right now. Again, I mean, you look at the portal thus far, so we have an official transfer portal tracker thread. Amari Abor, Parker Lewis, Evan Pryor, Kai Stokes, Ryan Turner, Jair Brown, Cam Martinez, Vic Cutler, Kyle McCord, all in the portal in the last day. And there's going to be more. So it is a wild, wild day. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see if Air plays. It really depends on who we get, I think. Larry Daniels, appreciate you, brother. Scoop Ultra member. Do you really think Kyle will get a top 20 team? Yeah, I think he could. I think he could. He's really scheme dependent because he's so slow. He's so slow of foot. Like he's got to be in the perfect scheme. And frankly, I didn't think he was great this year when he had Marvin Harrison and Trey and Emeka and Cade Stover. He had the greatest infrastructure you could ever have as a college quarterback. The Mackey finalist at tight end, 2 first-round receivers, a first-round running back, and he wasn't great. So I don't know where he's going to land that's going to be better than that. And like if people are studying him, I'm sure that someone will come after him and say, "Oh, we got Kyle McCord from Ohio State," but you watch that Michigan tape, man, and he's missing a lot of throws. He cost us that game, and again, I try not to be overly critical of this kid, but your quarterback has to be a superstar versus Michigan. He can't just be a guy. And Kyle was just a guy that day, and it really cost us. Andrew Brown, thanks for the 10. Ward from Washington State would probably be the best fit, in my opinion. I agree. I thought he was a guy, and they made him an offer. I heard it was $2 million. Those numbers you can always take with a grain of salt. Maybe $2 million really means $1 million. But he turned us down, and I have that on very good terms. But again, like does he revisit it with Kyle McCord off the roster? Because that's something where, I don't know what the exact language was when all of a sudden you're making these back channel offers. Is it different now that Kyle McCord's off the roster? I think it would be. James Jennings the third, thanks for the 5. I don't drink really, but I will be having a celebration beer tonight. I'm getting that a lot. I could forgive Ryan Day, but I can't forget how he mishandled the QB battle. It was one of the strangest things I've ever seen. How the Devin Brown thing went down, because I had people in camp say Devin Brown was better in camp, and it was just one of those strange deals where Kyle McCord was handed the keys, and Kyle McCord started the Akron game in 2021, the year that Quinn Ewers got here, and they kind of just went with him the whole way, and then Devin, he had his little bursts of playing time, but it wasn't enough that you really took it seriously. Because again, you've got to be, when you're a quarterback, you got to get into rhythm. You can't just play like one drive and be petrified if you screw up that you're going to get pulled from the game. And that's kind of where it was with Devin Brown. Like Devin, he'd get in for little spots, and that was it. So, Kyle, again, for better or worse, was our guy. And again, he went 11-1, and he was, throwing at the end zone against Michigan, but his pocket presence was terrible. He was just so slow of foot. He cost us some sacks where, if he'd step up in the pocket and throw the ball, he would have never gotten sacked, but he just didn't really have that spider sense to move around in the pocket very well. And that was one of the things that we kind of were chastising him about. Is I'm like, look, dude, you gotta help your lineman out and move a little bit. Like you watch Pat Mahomes, man, he does not sit still in the pocket very much. But yeah, it's gonna be really interesting. I think that Cam Ward's probably gonna go to SC or Oregon. Those would make really the most sense. Imagine Oregon. But yeah, I'm excited to see what Ryan has in mind. Again, I think that this is kind of this is the catbird seat going forward when you've got this type of energy around the program, and you've got Ennis and Tate and JJ Smith coming in. Like, I think that those guys, if they got Dante Moore, I think that Ennis and Tate would be over the moon because that's their guy. But again, that's not a huge effect on Ryan Day's decision making. He's going to make what's the best decision for the program. Div Jack 8, appreciate you. Thanks for the 10. I'm absolutely stoked. Can't wait for Brown to get all the reps and show that he should have been the guy all along. I hope that this teaches Day to never play favorites or politics again. I think Ryan's going to learn a lesson from this. I think that he mishandled the Quinn Ewers situation in pretty tremendous fashion. And obviously, Quinn Ewers is going to be competing for a national championship. He's going to come back next year. He'll likely be, I imagine, a top 5 pick if he continues to progress and play the way he did towards the end of the season. But, I think that the McCord thing is interesting. I mean, I don't think Ryan wanted to be held hostage by the McCords, so he moved on him. He didn't declare him the starter because, again, that was the thing. If you watch Ryan Day's press conference from last night, and he was asked, about the bowl game and declaring Kyle the starter for next season, and he wasn't ready to do that. And when I saw that, like both my eyebrows went to the sky because I was like, so a guy that just won 11-1 as a redshirt sophomore at Ohio State is a guy that you don't want to declare as your starting quarterback for the next season. Like, I don't think that's ever happened in the history of football where he's a redshirt sophomore, transfer portal era. If you don't declare him the starter, there's a chance he's gonna move on. But that's kind of where it is, because I mean, if you name him the starter, you lose Devin Brown immediately, and if you don't name the starter, you lose Kyle McCord. And I don't think Ryan was comfortable with just handing him the keys after what he had and the repercussions for the Michigan game. Terry Kovac, thanks for the 5. Here's reality. Regardless, if you're a recruiter portal guy, there are not guarantees anymore. I totally agree. I think that's something that people kind of miss with the transfer portal is that there's going to be 600-700 kids that enter the portal today, and 300 of them aren't going to find a home. Some of these kids, like, they think that they're the bee's knees or they're the cock of the walk, or they're going to be they're going to land at a similar situation. Like some of these kids that leave Ohio State, they end up at like in bad programs. Like they don't end up at like Alabama. Some JMO and some of those guys, they go to Bama and they go to like Seven Banks goes to LSU, and J.K. Johnson went to LSU. But a lot of these guys, they end up at terrible programs, and it ends up being a horrible mistake. But yeah, there's no guarantees anymore. Like again, like the rosters can turn over. But again, it's basically the players have the same freedom that the coaches have now. And that's something that never used to exist because the players are kind of locked into the rosters. But, coaches can leave at any given second. Justin Fry, if he had gotten offered that Indiana job, he would have been on the first thing smoking heading to Bloomington. And again, that's just how it's always been accepted that coaches could leave whenever they wanted. They could leave in the dark of the night like Lincoln Riley did when he went to SC. Literally in the dark of the night on a private jet, he goes to Los Angeles and leaves Oklahoma behind. But now players have that same autonomy, and it's kind of, it's crazy. It's awesome. It's scary if you're a coach and you have to manage a room and a roster, and you got to basically re-recruit guys like every single year, every single month, especially the month of December when the portal window opens. You got to really get a temperature on guys and say, okay, could this guy take off? Do we want this guy to take off? Because, again, the portal, it's a double-edged sword, because if there's guys that you want out of the room and they want to leave, that's great, because that means that you missed on them. And it's kind of like if you're playing poker and you got some bad cards and you can throw them back and get new ones, like that's great. But when you have guys that you're counting on or need and all of a sudden they take off, then that's a different ballgame. Super Panther 555, appreciate you, buddy. Thanks for the 5. I hope Day lets Cartline call plays in the Cotton Bowl. We need to start planning for 2024 in both players and coaches. I don't know if Ryan's ever going to give the play calling up unless he brings in a guy who he studies and has called plays and has done a good job. And Ryan understands kind of the flow of the game for the guy. I don't think he's going to hand it to Brian Hartline. I really don't. Like Brian, he's got to go somewhere where he is defined as a play caller and the head coach is not, a guy who's called plays as well. Like if Brian Hartline goes to USC or goes somewhere where there's a Lincoln Riley or a Ryan Day, a guy who's called plays his whole life. He's made a living calling plays. He's been good at calling plays. He's a great game planner. He's not going to give that play sheet up. I'm telling you, this is a critical year for Ryan Day. Ryan Day just won 11-1, and and when that one is Michigan, and you lose, like it kind of erases all of the good luck, all of the goodwill, all of everything. Because again, like that one loss by 6 points to the number one team in the country took the season from being a really high point. We're number one in, for, I mean, how many weeks with ESPN were we number one in the playoff rankings, number one in strength of schedule, game control, all these metrics that they put on the screen every week. Ohio State was like number one, or they were the top one, or strength of schedule. And then like we lose one game by 6 to the number one team, and we're out of the picture completely. That was like the thing it's always stunning. Like when you're going down to the wire of the playoff selection show, and we weren't even talked about as a possibility. We lose one game to literally the number one seed, and they didn't even mention Ohio State. It was Florida. Is it going to be Florida State? Is it going to be Bama? Is it going to be Georgia? Is it going to be basically anybody but us? Texas. Texas beats a terrible Oklahoma State team, and they slide up to 3 from like 8. Bama slides up to 4 from 8 or 9 or 7 or wherever they were. So, I think it's really interesting. Like I said, it's one of those things where that loss had just far-reaching implications, and it just erased the great Penn State win, the great Notre Dame win, and it was interesting. This is something that I really thought could happen if he actually would have gotten whacked. But Chip Kelly has been retained by UCLA. But would Ryan hire Chip Kelly to run the office? Yeah, absolutely, in a heartbeat. Like that would have been the perfect scenario for us, just because I think that that's the guy that Ryan actually trusts, and I don't think Ryan trusts many guys on his coaching staff. This is an interesting bringing Joe Brady to call the plays. I think he is I don't know where he's at. I just saw him. He's somewhere now, but he's not at Carolina anymore. That 2019 LSU team was so overloaded with power that I don't know how good he was. After that year, he left to the Carolina Panthers. Then he flamed out there impressively, and he's kind of bounced around. So I don't know how good a guy is when he's got, in college football, he's got Joe Burrow, Justin Jefferson, and Jamar Chase, and not to mention a good O-line and Clyde Edwards-Helaire, who was also a first-round pick. So he had basically 4 first-round picks as his skill guys. And they obviously were maybe the best team of all time. So I don't know how good he was, or if he just had overwhelming talent. But yeah, this is a shocking day, guys. I'm telling you, and it's not over. I mean, there's going to be more shock coming. I don't know Kyle's obviously going to be the biggest name to enter the portal today, but we're going to see a bunch more guys jump in the portal just because of, this is just modern college football. And again, it works both ways though, because Ryan and Mark Biantoni are going to be really aggressive to fill some of these holes. Texas A&M lost Walter Nolan last night. He was the number one player in the country 2 years ago, and superstar defensive tackle. Again, we need D tackles if we're likely to lose Tyleek and Mike Hall to the NFL. Like, we got to get after it and get some of these D tackles in here, because we were really thin there last year. That was something that I think hurt us down the stretch, especially against Michigan. Is when you only play 3 D tackles, it's really difficult to make ends meet, so to speak. But yeah, this is a shocking day, guys. But again, I saw it coming. Again, we went with it last night on BuckeyesScoop.com. We broke it at like 9:44 p.m. Eastern, and it's something where we had it sourced and we nailed it. And again, that's part of what we do, is like we get good information. I was kind of alluding to it all weekend that there could be a shocker in the portal, and but nobody guessed Kyle McCord. But I mean, I had that, and it's not surprising. Again, like, you listen to Ryan's press conference last night, the information I had last week, the amount that they want to reach out to Riley Leonard, they want to reach out to Cam Ward. Cam Ward already turned him down. It's crazy. Austin Spears, Scoop Ultra member, appreciate you, brother. Thank you so much for the 10. It's obvious this kid has no fire or passion. I thought that was painfully obvious. It was almost like it was like they gave him I will get you, Shane. Sorry, I miss you. It's like they gave him like a downer before he take the field. Your QB is your leader, and if they show no fight, the whole team feeds off that, and you have no shot from the get-go. I agree. Like, I mean, that was something I was critical of Kyle. Was like, he looked terrified out there. Shane, I apologize. Where did I miss you at? And guys, if I ever accidentally miss a super chat, I apologize. And please do what Shane did, just put it in the chat. Do all the young receivers stay with QB unknown? I think they do, because I think that Ryan is going to get a good QB. Like, Ryan is not going to play around. Apologize for that, Shane. I think Ryan's going to go after Dante Moore now. I think he's going to go after, probably revisit Cam Ward. I think the kid from Duke is a guy that they really want to get after and get to know. But again, I think that, the kid from Duke was pretty much locked into Notre Dame, but I think when Kyle McCord's out the door, all the math changed. So Dylan Gabriel's in the portal now from Oklahoma. Again, if you're a quarterback and you want to be, in the NFL and really get developed, I mean, Ohio State's the spot. Our line's going to be good next year. Josh Simmons is back. I think Josh Fryer is going to move to right guard. Carson Hinsman's back. I think we need to find a guard and a tackle, but you got guys like Luke Montgomery, George Fitzpatrick. You got some young guys, Tigra, that could be ready to go, and you could go find a veteran or go find some older guys that could be ready to go. Yeah, Ward. This is the words that he turned down an offer last week. Now, again, he turned it down last week when Kyle McCord was still on the roster as quarterback. So, if Kyle McCord, and again, maybe if he accepts the offer, then Kyle McCord hits the portal anyways, and that's kind of how it works. Because basically it's like money talks and BS walks. So if you offer that kid that much money, he ain't coming there to stand there and watch. He's coming there to play. And I think Kyle McCord would have got the cut of the jib from Ryan Day doing that. If you guys have questions, send in the super chats. But I mean, obviously Dylan Gabriel's a guy to watch now too. Arch, I love this. Arch and Peyton to visit Ohio State as a package deal. Arch isn't leaving Texas. Malik Murphy is a guy that I think that we're gonna prod around on and see if his kind of changed his mind. I think that Malik Murphy is a guy that Steve Sarkisian could try to gently find a soft landing for, because I think that Sark wants Quinn Ewers and then he wants Arch Manning, like back to back. And Arch is from maybe the smartest family in the history of football, starting with Grandpa and then Peyton Eli. Cooper obviously is Arch's dad, and they can sit for another year, develop the playbook, and then when year 3 comes, they'll have Arch for 4 years. Like Arch will be like Quinn, he'll stay for 4 years, and it's like I was talking to someone last night. I was like, if Peyton Manning can stay for 4 years and he was the most NFL ready junior of all time, then it doesn't hurt for a kid like Quinn Ewers or a kid like Arch Manning to stay for 4 years. Because I think that a 4-year quarterback heading into the NFL is just so much more advantageous. Guys like CJ Stroud are unicorns. There's not many like those. But you look at Joe Burrow, he played 5 years. You look at Justin Herbert, played 4 years. I think that extra year really does wonders for a quarterback. It slows you down. You get a year older. Your body develops. I think that's something that, one of Quinn Ewers' issues is he's really thin right now, and he's been hurt. So I think he's got to gain 15 pounds to withstand the beating you take in the NFL. Because when you're a quarterback in the NFL, man, you get hit a lot because the pass rushers are exceptional. The O-lines can get thin by the end of the season. Guys get hurt. You got a practice squatter blocking Aaron Donald or Myles Garrett or whoever. Like it can get ugly in a hurry. But yeah, the McCord thing is it's a shocker. Who in the chat, right? Who do you want as our starting quarterback next year? Because I'm seeing a lot of Moore. I'm seeing a lot of Ward. Basil, he's an Ultra member, so we're going to answer your question. Thanks for being a member of Scoop Ultra. If you guys are Scoop Ultra members, if I have time and I'm not bogged down with super chats, I'll pull you in here and get a question in. Scoop Ultra is kind of like a premium membership for our YouTube channel only to help support the channel, so we appreciate you guys. Basil, the NIL situation at OSU, it's not great. I think they're trying to make it better. I think that they need to get a monster in there to start fundraising, and they frankly don't have a monster there. They shifted the foundation to basketball only, which was kind of crazy, given the foundations raised way more money than 1870 Society or Cohesion did. But that was their decision. So 1870 is kind of what we're working with. And They had a weird stretch for about 3 weeks during the season. They were completely inactive. There was nothing on Twitter. There was nothing, in the midst of an undefeated season, and that was kind of shocking to me. And they let go of Todd Markowitz, who's their president, so he got let go a month or two ago. So yeah, something's up at 1870, and hopefully they get it in gear because we need, in modern football, man, you need money to retain your roster and to go get new guys. Uh, yeah, I mean, I see some. Also, Troy Smith. I'd love if Troy could come back. Yeah, I mean, Devin Brown would be interesting. Lincoln, again, it's not to say the quarterback might not be on the roster right now. I mean, Lincoln and Devin are capable dudes. Um, Austin Spears, what do you think about the QBs from Liberty or James Madison? Haven't seen them. I'd be completely guessing on them. I've just been focused on the guys that I've heard we're looking at that are realistic candidates. Yeah, not to say that we wouldn't look at these guys, but I know that we've reached out to Cam Ward. I'm sure we're going to reach out to the kid from Duke now. I'm sure we'll reach out to Dylan Gabriel. So it's, like I said, it is the wild wild west. And again, and maybe Devin Brown just takes the bull by the horns and runs with it. Again, during camp, Devin was fantastic, and it was weird because there's sometimes when you do this, you get reports about players that are doing really really well, and then they don't play, and you kind of wonder like, did the people that were seeing the stuff, were they blind, were they confused? And in reality, like, it just was, Ryan wanted to go with Kyle, and I think that there were some other ulterior factors that made him pick Kyle. And I'll leave it at that. I'm not going to get too deep into the weeds there, but like Devin Brown went from being a guy that was projected to start to a guy that barely played. Played a little bit in mop up time, and they had the little running package for him that got him hurt. But it was interesting. And Devin, when and to be fair, Devin, when he got in there, he didn't exactly like kill it. I mean, he was okay, but he missed some throws, and he's a little shaky. And again, that's part of being a backup when you play at a place like Ohio State is you get anxiety because you only get 5 plays or 10 plays or whatever. So you got to go try to make the most of it and do whatever. But, I just, I don't know. It's going to be interesting. Again, this portal stuff, we're going to have more guys hitting the portal basically, hour over hour. It's like they're almost kind of like spaced out. I'm just checking to see if anyone else has hit the portal since we've gotten on here. But yeah, Dante Moore is that's Ennis's guy for sure, and it's definitely Carnell Tate's guy. So I wouldn't be shocked if we got either of those guys. Again, Dylan Gabriel being in here that's another one. But yeah, Austin, another 5. Do you think Brown would have replaced Kyle if he didn't get hurt? Could have. I mean, again, I talked to some people really high up at Ohio State that thought he was going to be the guy. And it wasn't it wasn't just some fanboy or some guy just walking through the woody that passed him. It was a real person, and they're like, he's got the ability, he's got the upside. It was someone that didn't think Kyle had the chin for the job, because again, being the quarterback at Ohio State is an exceptionally difficult job because our fan base is very tough on these kids. You lose, it's very tough, and you got to know that going in. But if you win, then your life is just amazing for the rest of your life. So, but that's part of the gig. McCord to Michigan State. I don't know, man. I think he's got to go to. I mean, Michigan State's got a good quarterback coach now. Their head coach he's a quarterback guy, but it'll be really interesting to see where he lands. Because I think that he's a guy that. It's kind of funny. We passed on JJ McCarthy, who beat us twice for Kyle McCord, and then Kyle McCord turns around and leaves us. But it's kind of. It is what it is with modern football. Well, I think I'm going to wrap this thing. I'll get back on with Nevada in a little bit. Again, I appreciate the super chats. Again, this is a wild day, and it's going to only get more wild as we go. Again, this is why you guys got to join BuckeyesScoop.com. Again, our message board is insane. We broke this last night. Sure as can be. This morning. Well, I mean, I'm gonna answer this real quick. I mean, I think it's a shocker that a guy that went 11-1 at Ohio State at quarterback would take off. Like, I think that's shocking. I mean, I think that most of the proverbial reaction is that wow, a guy that's a redshirt sophomore at Ohio State with all the weapons and all everything takes off is shocking. But again, Marvin, his guy Marvin's gone. Marvin's gonna go to the league. Innocent Tate might not have loved him, or he might not have loved them, or whatever. So, I think it was interesting. Yeah, and I think that there could be some movement in the coaching staff too. I mean, it's going to be a very very interesting day at the Woody Hayes. I think some guys might potentially be getting fired today, so prayers to their family. It's not fun. Again, when we didn't make the playoffs, I think there were going to be some long term implications for the staff and movement, and I think Ryan is trying to upgrade his staff a little bit, along with the quarterback room. So get on BuckeyesScoop.com, guys. I'm telling you, it is nonstop. It's crazy. But I appreciate you guys, as always, tuning in. We will be back in a little bit as the day goes on. I'm sure I'll jump on with Nevada, but appreciate you guys tuning in. As always, BuckeyesScoop.com. We broke this last night. There's a timestamp. It's over, 9:44. We broke the McCord deal. The rest of the world's getting it today, but if you're on BuckeyesScoop.com, you're getting it first. So we appreciate you guys that are members of BuckeyesScoop.com. If you enjoy this content, please leave us a like. Click subscribe. Also, click that little alert bell. Again, this is massive breaking news. And again, we had it first, so we appreciate you guys tuning in to BuckeyesScoop.com. But thank you, Buckeye Nation. Thank you, Scoop family. I'm sure I'll be on here maybe multiple times today with Nevada Buck, but we'll be back soon. I'll talk to you soon. Thanks. Oh, and you guys have a great day.